Hi, my name is Esther. This is podcast number 2 of my knitting podcast. This is March 25th, which is a Monday of 2024. It's around 9:45 in the morning. I do have a window right over there. That is my only light source. And I am in my spare bedroom. I have a coffee right next to me. So I might be a little jittery, a little more talkative than I was my last podcast, which was around 3 weeks ago. So yeah, the agenda for this podcast is to go through all my knitting projects, my book I'm reading, the planner system that I'm using, and then any acquisitions at the very end, because I know that some people don't like to look at acquisitions. I don't particularly enjoy looking at acquisitions, so I put it at the very end, so you can skip it if you want to. So, let's see. Podcasts usually start off with finished objects, but I have none. I have not finished any objects since my last podcast, so that's an indication that I'm not a slow knitter, but I do have multiple projects going at the same time. So I'm not a very monogamous knitter. So yes, I'll just start off with the projects that I think I have the most amount of progress on, or the ones that I'm closest to finishing, and then go from there. So the one that I have the most amount of progress on is my Destlin sweater. In my last podcast, this was a sweater that I need to make fixes on, and I have. Yay! So this is my husband's Destlin. I knit this last year. The Destlin is a pattern by Stephen West. It is a worsted weight sweater knit top down. It is a circular yoke, and it has all of this patterning on it. I hope you guys can see it. It is a beautifully designed pattern, and my husband loves the sweater. He has worn it a few times. This yarn is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes tweed, and I think my husband did great with picking out a color. So the fixes I needed to make was I needed to make the arms shorter, so that's what I did. Let me see. So I knit the arms shorter. I have not reblocked the sweater, so there are still some ends, and the cuff isn't as flat, but I'll get there when I get there. So I took out one of the panels from the cuff, or from the sleeve, and then I reknit the cuff, and I did that on both sides. So the sleeves match. The sleeves match, yeah. So I had all of this extra yarn from the sleeves being torn out. So I decided, I asked my husband what he would prefer, and we decided to lengthen the body. So that's what I'm doing. I am lengthening the body. I hope you guys can see. I have the needles attached. I have done one section. You can distinctly see where the block is, where I blocked the pattern, and then I've done one section, and now I'm on the cuff, the ribbing, and I have this much yarn left. I know that you're supposed to straighten out the ramen noodles if you're gonna reknit, but I'm gonna block the sweater anyway, and I really don't see the point. Some knitting guru is probably screaming at me right now, but that's okay. So yes, I am on the cuff, or the ribbing at the very bottom, and so I should be done with this by the end of today, hopefully, and then block. And that will be the end of the Destlin saga. It'll go back to my husband into his closet. It is currently 40 to 50 degrees out, so right now is probably the perfect weather for him to be wearing this sweater, so I'm trying to finish it as soon as possible. The next sweater is another one from my fixes list from last podcast, and that is my Wool & Honey. So this is the Wool & Honey sweater by Andrea Mowry. This is a fingering weight sweater. I am knitting this in Knit Picks palette. I have the ball band. I can't quite remember the name. Knit Picks palette Autumn Heather. Yep. right here. I, for some reason, that name always escapes me. It doesn't mean to, but it always does. So yes, this is my Wool and Honey by Andrew Mowry. And the fix I need to do with this is I need to lengthen the arms. So for this one, so for the dustlant, I just ripped back. But for this one, I opted to do some sweater surgery. So I cut off the cuff, quite literally. I cut it off. I just have these on some spare needles. And I am knitting the sleeve from, well, I have a little stitch marker right here. And I am gonna extend the sleeve by 3 inches, which is actually quite a lot. So this sweater, I believe the intended design is supposed to be like short. It's not full sleeve, it's like to the forearm. And this sweater does hit me on the forearm. It matches perfectly. But after wearing it a couple of times, I realized that I keep trying to pull my sleeve down, which obviously I can't because it was knit to be hitting the mid forearm. So I'm just knitting it longer by 3 inches so that it actually hits me more like right here. Like not, I consider bracelet length like right here, and then full sleeve here. It's like shorter than bracelet length. I'm sure there is some technical term for that, for sleeve that ends in that area. I don't know it, but that's what I'm aiming for. So yes, my Wool and Honey, I am on one sleeve. I still have to do the other. So this sleeve is actually probably a perfect comparison. This is how short I made the original sleeves, and this hits my forearm. I am short. I am 5'2", so yes, that's just how it is. So yeah, I am in a slight hurry to finish this, only because this is a 100% wool fingering weight sweater. In springtime would be lovely to wear this. So I want to finish the dustland, which I will finish probably like today. And then this is my second priority, to finish this before it gets too hot. So my Wool and Honey. Those are my 2 fixes from last podcast that I am currently fixing right now. The next couple are active whips, as in I've started them as usual and I'm just working on them as per usual. I have my No Sweatshirt by Parkin Williams. I have both sleeves, yay! And I do have the hood. I have the hood, yay! And my sleeves are both done. And so now I'm just back on the body. Oh, my shoulder just cracked. I hope you guys didn't hear that. But yeah, I'm now on the body. I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but yeah, the body. So this design is, you knit in the round, like stockinette in the round, forever. And then you wear it so that the reverse stockinette is outside. And I am so grateful that it is written like that, because the amount of purling that would need to be done would have killed my hands. So this is knit inside out, which is nice. And it is going by relatively quickly. It's just that it is just endless stockinette, but just a little boring for me. It is, just a little. But yes, the sleeves are done. Now I just have to do the body. I am knitting this in Noro Kakegurui. I have the yarn right here. I believe this is colorway number 29. And this one I did get at a local yarn store. I got this from Fiber Space in Alexandria, Virginia. If you are looking for Noro Kakegurui, it was, I don't know why. For me, it was hard to find. So I found it at Fiber Space in Alexandria, Virginia. That's where I got mine. So yes, this is colorway number 29, I believe. And the colors are looking like this. Can you guys see? Yeah. This reminds me of so my husband and I went to the Grand Canyon several years ago. And you can see the layers of rock in the Grand Canyon because it's a canyon. This kind of reminds me of that. Like the striations. it's not like the Grand Canyon is brown and reds, and this is obviously blues and greens, but the striations remind me of like a side of a mountain, which makes them really beautiful. I can see the appeal of Noro Kakegori, even though the cotton content is killing my hands, which is why I'm so grateful that this is in knit and not pearl, because that might honestly kill my hands. So yes, I see the appeal. Noro Kakegori is a primarily cotton yarn, which makes this feel super cool, like to work on. Like the text, like the feeling of it is like very cooling on the hands, but it is heavy because again, cotton is heavier than wool when you're knitting on it. My next active whip is my Rose Cardigan by Andrea Mowry. This pattern is very interesting. The construction of this cardigan is very interesting. So it is knit in 4 quadrants, and then you seam it all together. This is a sport weight pattern, but I am knitting it in a fingering weight. I believe it's sport. And I am knitting this in Knotty Pines 2023 Christmas Advent, which is a fade advent. And this cardigan is originally written for a fade. A sport weight fade, but a fade nonetheless. And I am knitting the 4 quadrants at the same time. I don't know how else to show this. So I'm knitting this almost as if I'm knitting 2 socks on the same needle. I'm knitting it in that kind of mindset. The reason why is because this is a fade, and I want to run out of a color at the same moment in both quadrants that will be seamed together to make the sleeve. So in order for me to do that, I am knitting the 2 quadrants from the same ball. That way when this ball runs out, the 2 quadrants will be having that change in color at the same time. So when I seam the 2 sides together, the color shift will match almost. At least match as much as possible. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm explaining this in a very convoluted manner. But yes, this is what the second sleeve is looking like. I do start with the cuff. I believe the cuff is knit at the end, but again, I'm trying to make sure to use as much of the yarn as possible. So I'm knitting the cuff first, and then split the cuff in half to knit the 2 sides, the 2 quadrants. This is my second half. I do have my first half. It is right here. Lots of yarn. So yes, this is what the half looks like. And I have started to seam this first half, so this is what the seaming looks like. I have not seamed the bottom up yet, but yeah. And it has a beautiful cabling that runs along the top of the yarn. So yes, this is beautiful. It is beautiful. It's going to be a fingering weight sweater. It's knit. It's supposed to be knit in sport though, so don't follow me. Don't do what I do. Do as I say, right? I believe that's the phrase. But yeah, that is the Rose Cardigan. It'll get done eventually. I'm hoping to get it done by Maryland Sheep and Wool. I've never been to Maryland Sheep and Wool, but I'm told that it's a lot of fun. And I want to have the Rose Cardigan done by then, so that way I can justify buying a sweater quantity of yarn at the yarn festival. Essentially, it's all just personal justification in my head. My next work in progress is one that I have not shown. This is a new cast on. I probably should not have new cast-ons with how many whips I currently have, but what can I say? I'm an accessory knitter. So this is the, oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called. Vertices Unite. This is the Vertices Unite by Stephen West. This is a modular fingering weight shawl, and it uses a multitude of colors. I am just on the first section, and this is such a mindless knit, which is so strange to me because I have knit a handful of Stephen West patterns. I've knit the Fantastitch, the shawlography, the starflake. I believe that's it. So I've knit a multitude of Stephen West patterns, and I would not call his patterns mindless in any means mindless. But this one is pretty mindless. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice to be a little mindless. And it calls for 5 colors. I have my 5 colors here. So these are the 2 colors that I'm using currently. And then I have, I don't know how I'm going to show this. These 2 colors, like. And then I have another one. I have really no idea how I'm going to show all these. So these are my 5 colors. And then one of them is still in the skein because I have not kicked it up yet. Whew. Okay, so let me go through the colors one by one. This is 29 Bridges in the colorway Cider. This one is Luminous Brooklyn in the color Orion. Let me see. This one I got from their actual yarn studio. It's in New York. I cannot remember what the store name is called, but this is where like she actually dies. Like this is her store yarn. So Luminous Brooklyn. The 29 Bridges I got at Woolwinders in Rockville, Maryland, which is really close to DC. And then this is another Luminous Brooklyn in the colorway Tropic. This is, let me get the ball band. So this one is Arcana Husako sock in the Palazzo Cusco. And I got this at the Yarn Maven in Smyrna, Delaware. And then this one is Three Irish Girls yarn in the colorway Bright Lights Big City, and I bought this at Loop in Philadelphia. So those are all my colorways. Now to put these ball bands back into the cake so that I don't lose them. And yes, so this shawl is going to be primarily greens and blues and creams. That's the colorway that I like when I don't really know what colorway to use. I was thinking about adding like a bright pop of orange because I think oranges with greens and creams look beautiful together. But I just haven't found the bright orange, which is the reason why this one is still cake in the skein, because I'm not sure if I want to replace it with another color. Also, this color is just so beautiful. It could be like a shawl on its own, and it will just be like a beautiful little shawlette on its own. So it's making me like second guess my coloring. But yeah, that is my Vertices Unite. I'm just on the first section. It's gonna take a while. All Stephen West shawls take a bit of time for me, so. But I'm in no hurry. My last 2 active whips are my just car knitting in the purse knitting. So I'm in no hurry for any whip, but I'm definitely in no hurry for these. So the first one is a sock. This is my second sock. My first sock is, I believe, downstairs. I think it's on my kitchen table. I am using Andrea Mauer's DRK Everyday Sock as the basis for like numbers, but I am not following the actual pattern. So here's my little sock. I am doing a 3x1 rib. I like 3x1 rib for a sock because it shows the yarn and the knit stitch, but the ribbing helps the stretch. So yes, and then I'm knitting these on just my 9-inch circulars. I am primarily a 9-inch circular girl, but I do use DPNs for heels, toes. Yeah, heels and toes mostly. I have done socks and DPNs though. I have no qualms. I have no problems. I'll do Magic Loop too. This yarn is Lavender Loon. Let me open it up so that you can see. This is Lavender Loon yarns in the colorway 200. And this, my husband got me this at Black Squirrel in Berkeley, California. He went there for his cousin's college graduation, so he got me some yarn because I couldn't go that week. I had things. So yes, I got this. He got me this yarn, and I believe the name is Black Squirrel or Berkeley Squirrel. I know it's in Berkeley, California, or close to Berkeley. So yes, and it is. I'm calling this my strawberry lemonade socks, but it's the colorway 200. It's not strawberry lemonade, but yeah, it's beautiful and it's so spring-like, right? I'm making these into shorties, and I have the other one already downstairs done. Just needs to be blocked. It'll get blocked eventually. And then my car knitting is a muscle burrow. If you truly want mindless knitting, a muscle burrow is the way to go because it is just endless, mindless stockinette. So the muscle burrow is a beanie pattern by Isolde Teague. I have knit multiples of these. This is just stockinette in the round for really as long as you want. But this is using Gauge Dye Works yarn in the colorway Solar System. This is the one-way trip version. So it looks like this, and it's knitting up like this, and here's the rest of the colors. The Gauge Dye Works Solar System yarn is it's so much fun because it is literally in this colorway of the Solar System. So I've rubber banded the ball band to the outside so that I can track where I am in the colorways. So they have a one-way and a round trip. This is the one-way. So these little blips of color are the planets, and at the very end, that's the sun. And then the parts of gray indicate the amount of distance between each solar system or each planet. So in the end, you have these little stripes that indicate where you are. So this is Pluto, the red, and I'm now on this bright blue, which you can barely see, but I am there. That's Neptune. I sound so much more powerful than I actually am, and I'm like, this is Pluto and this is Neptune. But yeah, this is the muscle burrow hat that I'm making out of this yarn, and this stays in my car. I did start this before my last podcast, but it was in my car, and so I wasn't able to show you last time. So I can't really show you how much progress I've done on this, but this is a long-term whip. Like it'll be several months before I'm done, which is not a problem because it's getting warm now and I have no use for a beanie in the summertime. Okay, so those are all of my active whips. Some of them closer to being done than others, but all active nonetheless. I have 4 hibernating whips, and I know a lot of podcasts don't show their hibernating whips, but for me, hibernating whips means that they are still on the needles and they have not been frogged, which means I do eventually have the goal of either finishing it or perhaps I'll frog it in the end. So let's start with this one. So this is a Manhattan hat by Tori Yu. I believe that's her actual name. I think she goes by a different name for Instagram, but I can't remember what it is. And I'm just knitting this in a yarn that I've had in my stash for years. This is a Christmas gift for a family member. A family member on my husband's side, but a family member nonetheless. I don't know why. Like in my head, it's like a family member from my husband's side, but that's how my brain works. I know for a fact that this is acrylic yarn, but I don't remember where I got it. I don't remember what the name is. What I do know is that I have enough yardage to make a Manhattan hat, so that is what I'm doing. The Manhattan hat is a wonderful pattern. I've knit multiple for Christmas gifts over the years. It is a ribbed hat, so it fits wonderfully. So if you have to knit gifts and you don't know the circumference of your gift receiver's head, the Manhattan hat is a great pattern because it's just rib until you reach the very crown. So I highly suggest the Manhattan hat, especially for gift knits for people that you don't know their measurements of. Or even if you do know the measurements of, it's a great looking hat. So yes, the Manhattan hat. My next gift knit is for my mother. I am knitting my mother the Houseblend cardigan, and I can't remember the designer name. I got it from a book. I believe it's called the Coffee House Knits book. I got it from the library, and it is a great book. It has a load of patterns in it, all beautiful. So if you end up finding it at your library, I would suggest having a look. And I'm knitting this in this bright yellow. My mother likes bright colors, so yellow works out beautifully for her. This is Caron's 1 pound in the colorway Sunflower. Again, acrylic. I tend to knit my gifts in acrylic because if I'm gonna knit a gift for somebody, I don't want to have to dictate how they wash their stuff. And so acrylic and cotton and linen, those are great materials to make gift knits out of because you don't have to make them hand wash an item when the rest of their laundry might be machine wash. It also is, it's not mentally taxing, but you do have to remember to like separate your laundry sometimes if you're giving somebody a 100% non-superwash wool sweater versus just knitting them something in acrylic, and so they don't have to think about it. So yes, I do typically knit my gifts in acrylic. It makes it so much easier. So yes, this is a long cardigan. It's supposed to hit past your thigh or past your hip, and it is knit flat and then seamed, which is probably the reason why this is taking me longer than it actually needs to. It's why it's hibernating. I'm not particularly fond of knitting flat and then seaming, but this is for my mother, and my mommy deserves all of the gift knits that she wants. So that is the Houseblend cardigan. Those two gifts are for Christmas, so and it's March now, so I'm in really no hurry to really try to finish it anytime sooner than it needs to. My next hibernating whip is my Amadou cardigan. This is also from a publication. I believe the designer's first name is Marie. I can't quite remember. I feel so awful about not remembering the designer's names. I will link my Ravelry project pages, like my project page down below. And I do link yarn if I know it and the pattern if I have it. So this is the Amadou cardigan. Ooh, let me show you my swatch. That might make it easier. This is a 100% cabled sweater. The pattern is written for DK, but I am using Knit Picks Sport. I'm using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport Weight and Oyster Heather. Wow, my bad. This is 137 yards per 50 grams. So in my mind, this is a heavier sport. It's closer to DK than my other sport weight yarns, if that makes sense. So I am using this for the DK weight sweater, and I did not hit gauge. I did not hit gauge. I was about to lie, but no, I did not hit gauge. But that is okay because I like the flow of the fabric that I'm getting. And I'm okay with a pattern not hitting gauge as long as it fits properly. Like as long as the math works out and the fabric is how I prefer, I'm okay with not hitting gauge. Again, it's not like I'm test knitting anything. It's not like I'm a designer that needs to hit gauge. So this is for me. Like, what can I say? I'm a maverick. Not really. I'm not a maverick at all. who am I trying to kid? So this is the cardigan. This is the back, so that you guys can see this beautiful cabling. It is beautiful cabling. The Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, I think, is a great yarn for texture. So this is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. The Dustland right here. This is also Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. This is in worsted tweed, and then this one is the sport weight, just Wool of the Andes. And then I did knit the double knit button band, which is where I paused because I wasn't sure if I wanted to extend the ribbing at the very bottom. And if I wanted to extend the ribbing, then I would need to rip out this double knit button band. Which, if you've done double knitting, or even if you haven't, double knitting takes a long time. And for me, it was not the most comfortable thing to knit on with my hands. I'm a combination knitter, so I will knit continental in English depending on how I feel. I believe I knit the button band in continental though. So it wasn't the most comfortable with my hands. So that's why I paused, because I was like, I don't know if I want to rip out the button band to extend the ribbing. But now that I'm looking at this again, like in front of camera, I probably should have done this before camera, but now that I'm looking at it again, I'm kind of okay with the ribbing. So I think I'm going to go on with the sleeves. So I still have to knit the sleeves. The sleeves will be knit in the round cabling. So the sleeves, I think, will go faster than the actual body, which will be nice. I'm not in a big hurry to finish this. I think for some reason this cable patterning like makes me think this is a fall sweater. You can knit your sweaters however many times you want and for whatever season you want, but for me this is a fall sweater, so I'm in no hurry. So that's the Alma Do. And then my last one on hibernation is a fix that I want to fix sooner rather than later. This is the Tessellated Vest by Andrea Mowry. This was her Rhinebeck pattern for last year, for 2023. And this is a mosaic colorwork vest. And it is beautiful, and I really want to wear this, but I need to extend the sleeves. This is knit bottom up. This is actually my first time knitting a bottom up in the round garment. So I was bound to make mistakes, and the mistake that I made was that I made the armhole too small. So I need to rip back the yoke to lengthen it. Yeah, I need to lengthen the yoke. But yes, it is beautiful. It makes me a little sad, but I need to do it. But I don't have any US 4 needles available, so I need to finish, and I refuse to buy more needles. I have enough needles as it is. I do not need to buy more. So I need to finish my rows at least until ribbing, so that I can use those US 4 needles to work on this, because this also used US 4s. This is mosaic, and I have all of the colors right here. I would like to say I'm more prepared, but I'm not really. I just happen to have these all here. So these are my 4 colors. This is Spin Cycle in the Royal Mile, which is the colorway, I believe it's the exclusive colorway for Fiberspace in Alexandria, Virginia, which is so close to DC. If you're gonna go by DC, I would stop by just to see. This is Craft Me Not Yarn Co. in Pistachio. I believe I got this at Loop, but I think it was a pop-up show. Like, I don't think they carry this yarn all the time. So this is in the Pistachio colorway. And this is Porter Wool in the colorway Huntress. And I got this at a yarn, like a fiber festival, like 2 years ago. So yeah, I did not get this in a brick and mortar. Or I did, but I got it in person, but not at a brick and mortar. So yes, those are my 3 colorways. And I need to update this. I would love to be able to wear this in the spring and the summertime. I think it would be a beautiful like layering piece. But I need US 4s. So I need to finish I need to finish my rose cardigan before I can go to this one. So those are all of my wets. It's not bad. I have 11, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11. I have 4 that are hibernating, 2 that are fixes. So I have 5 that are active. And of the 5, 2 of them are on the go knitting. So really I have 3 that are active focused knits, which is not terrible. I would love to have that number go down, but c'est la vie. Okay. The book I'm reading. So I am still reading Lolita. It has gotten weirder. I did not think it could get weirder, but it has. I still thoroughly recommend this book, though. I would read the back cover, though, because it is a little traumatizing. Like, it's not... I'm not traumatized, but I can see it being very traumatizing for a lot of people, actually. On that note, me and my husband just finished watching Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids Television. It's a docuseries on HBO Max. That was kind of triggering, just a little bit. Just a tiny, like, I did not grow up with cable, so all of the references I understood, but more from pop culture aspect rather than me actually experiencing those shows. The docuseries focuses on kids television in like the early 2000s. So I did not have cable, so I did not actually watch any of those shows, even though I know of the shows. Like my friends had cable, so I knew of the shows, but I never watched them. My husband, on the other hand, did grow up with cable, and he understood those references a lot more than I did. So if you were a kid growing up in the 2000s, even if you did not have cable, you will still understand. And it is eye-opening. It's a little scary. So I would maybe just watch the first episode before you really want to get into it, because it can be a little like cringy. But yes, it's a very good docuseries. My husband and I are now watching Tokyo Vice, which is on its season 2, which I'm so excited for. That is also on HBO Max. If you like crime shows, I would highly recommend. The first season is on HBO Max as well. I would definitely watch the first season before the second season, or you will be very confused. But yes, those are the 2 shows. I'm still using my standard Traveler's Notebook. I am using my standard Traveler's Notebook in the Chic Sparrow Creme Brulee colorway. And I have not bought a new planner, so it's still the old Heritage Pocket style. I don't know if anyone's really interested into seeing those things, so if you are, tell me, and if I don't hear anything about it, then I'm gonna assume that nobody's really interested. And so yeah, that is all that stuff. My last section is acquisitions. I did go to the Philadelphia Yarn Crawl, which was, and I only went for Sunday, so I only went on March 17th, but I believe it spanned over 4 days. And I got 2. Well, I went to 3 stores, and I got 2 yarns, so I only bought from 2 stores. I did not go in with a plan, which is the reason why I didn't buy as much, and also the reason why I got overwhelmed by the amount of people that were in the yarn crawl, which is great. Like, it's just great, but it made me feel very overwhelmed, which is probably the reason why I didn't buy as much as maybe some others have. I'm sure lots of people who went to the Philadelphia Yarn Crawl bought more or showed more, so I'm sure you can find them on Instagram and YouTube, but I'm only going to show you the 2 I got. So my first store I went to was Loop on South, I believe it's South Street in Philadelphia. I've gone to their store before. I have bought yarn from them before. And the only thing I got was their Yarn Crawl colorway. So it is spun right around. And I got the classic sock in the colorway Thaw. The classic sock is 100% superwash merino, 438 yards per 100 grams. And this is their colorway. I plan on making maybe a one skein shawl out of this. I think it would highlight the colors beautifully. And then I went to Yarnforia, which those Loop and Yarnforia are the two yarn stores that I frequent the most when I'm in Philadelphia. My husband's headquarters is in Central City, Philadelphia, so those are the two stores that are like the closest for me to be able to go when he goes in for work, and I just happen to tag along. So yeah, those are the two yarn stores I typically go to. Yarnforia was packed on Sunday to the point that I walked in, did my loop, got very quickly overwhelmed by the amount of people in there, and then walked out. So I did not buy anything, but I highly suggest going in there just to see. They have a lot of yarn. They have a lot of sock yarn, which I like to knit socks, so that's where I primarily go. But they have a lot of other yarns. I would suggest going and taking your time, but I did not buy anything this time. And then the last store I went to was South Philly Yarn and Crafts. I might be mixing some of those words up, but South Philly something. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I got one yarn. I got it's from Geektastic Fibers, and this is the Superhero Sock in the colorway None for Gretchen Wieners. I have knit with this company's yarn before. This is self-striping. The Superhero Sock is 75% 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 437 yards per 100 grams. And these colors are so spring for me. I will definitely be knitting socks with that. And so yeah, these are my only two acquisitions. A sock and a shawl. So yeah, I believe that's everything that I have to share with you. I have everything like laid out in front of me, like right in this area. So if I'm looking down and scanning just to see if I'm missing anything, but I believe I covered everything. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I will leave my Ravelry project down below, so if you want to know colorways or patterns, and in my colors, in my yarn, I typically link the store that I got it from if you wanted to go into store to buy something, or if you're interested in knowing which yarn stores are close to I'm in Delaware, so like close to Delaware. That's where I would suggest looking first. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. Be as productive as you possibly can, and I will see you the next time I decide to podcast. Bye.